but what I think that they don't really grasp is that you have to be quick to let people go. It takes me a while to bring somebody on. I'm very picky with my people. I'm very picky. Oh, it's almost crazy. It's almost insulting how picky I am with people that come around. And I'm so fast to cut them off. And so, what's the word I'm looking for? Unapologetic.
Welcome to the How to Scale Commercial Real Estate Show. Whether you are an active or passive investor, we'll teach you how to scale your real estate investing business into something big.
Allon Avigi is a 26-year-old entrepreneur buying and repositioning properties across the country. They currently have over $70 million in assets under management. Allon, welcome to the show.
Hey, man. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. Allon, there's 3 questions I ask every guest who comes to the show. In 90 seconds or less, can you tell me, where did you start? Where are you now? And how did you get there?
Yeah, I started at 21 years old. I was a student at Hofstra University in Long Island, New York. I started with $1 and a dream, bought a house in Westbury, hard money loan, 12% interest, 2 points going in. I just got started with that house, started rolling from there, learned how seller financing worked, ended up getting a couple owners to hold mortgages for me. Thereafter, I learned about syndications and raising. That was my big ticket item for my first bigger deal. I began getting into new developments, building the teams, 1 brick at a time, baby. And now I've got 70 million AUM. I've got a solid, fantastic team, 25 full-time people, and we're scaling rapid fire. It's a lot of people for the light amount of AUM we have. So I have the infrastructure to go to $1 billion as we speak.
Wow, that's a lot of moving pieces. Did you grow up in an entrepreneurial family? Was there a mentor along the way that just kind of showed you the ropes, or is this just something that just kind of comes to you naturally?
So very entrepreneurial family. It's a great question because naturally that's what everyone would expect, right? It's you don't just roll like that. My parents came to America about 20 and change years ago when I was a little boy, and my father didn't speak any English. So when he got off the boat, he was just learning, the trades. He started working as a construction guy. They used to pick him up daily and he would do day labor stuff. He used to deliver mattresses. My mom used to sell mattresses at a local furniture store. And one thing led to the next. They ended up saving up enough money to buy a van. The van turned into a moving business. The moving business turned into a furniture store. And then my parents had a furniture store that I grew up watching them work and sell and be part of. Retail got crushed in 2008, and as Wayfair, Amazon, Overstock got stronger, and my parents wanted out. So when I built my real estate business, they ended up leaving, and they both came to join me.
Wow, that's really cool. I love the hustle there. There's no, I guess for some people there's probably the golden ticket, but for anybody that's building something ground up, there's just no easy way to do it besides just grind it out. And you watched your parents do it. What were some of the things you felt like you learned growing up, watching them work a furniture store?
Well, I learned how to talk to people. That was a big one. Many people in this new era have a challenge talking to people and getting to the point or closing the deal. It's like, what do you want from me, right? When people start talking to me and they're like, I'm a New Yorker at this point. I'm a tough New Yorker. I love Memphis, but when I go to these places and people start talking to me and trying to figure something out, I'm like, what do you want? Just tell me what you want, and then we could see if we can get there.
I like that. I like the learning to talk to people. Yeah, it's funny, man. The tough New Yorker, you get in the South, here in Memphis, and that is something that even for me, having a lot of family from the South, when we moved down here, it took me a little bit to get used to, because it will take 8 to 10 minutes of, even when family calls me, they talk for 10 minutes before they actually tell you what they called you about. And I'm like, come on, what'd you call me for? So
yeah,
that's, but still figuring those nuances out, working the furniture store is, you learn from an early age, like you said, how to close the deal. That's a skill set that you now have ingrained just naturally, that you'll never lose that. So that's really, really awesome. You bought a house, hard money loan, 12 points or 12%, 2 points up front. How did you convince the hard money lender that you were capable of making the deal happen?
Well, you know what? But before we go into that, back to the furniture store, there were a lot of nuances and tiny little things that I didn't realize back then that were so impactful today.
Please.
And for example, when I was a kid, my parents like, you want to make money, sell furniture. That's the only way you're going to make money, through here, because we don't have money to give you, and we're not going to give you money even if we did. So I used to go to the store. I used to talk to people as a 12, 13, 14-year-old and try and pitch them on, a bed frame, a mattress, a headboard, a dresser. And if I closed a deal, I would get 5% commission. So those are good times. And then I ended up figuring out I'm a kid. It's tough to sell as a young guy because people don't take you as seriously.
Right.
So I built websites around furniture, and I used to bring in the furniture from different manufacturers. Nobody knew how old I was back then, right? Because nobody knows how old you are behind a computer screen.
Sure.
And this was before the Wayfair era. So I used to bring in this furniture. I would repackage it at the store. I would end up putting it on a FedEx truck, a UPS truck. This was all hand delivered type of thing back then. I would, call UPS. I'd order it online, get the truck in, the dimensions and everything. Now everything's much more streamlined. Back then it wasn't. And I would drop ship furniture across the country. And the things I would learn is like be, price better than your competition if you're offering the same product. Right. So today, and I'm buying an apartment complex wherever, right? Let's say I just bought 67 units in Cabot, Arkansas. Right next door is an apartment complex. They're charging $850 for a mid-grade product. I'm putting in higher end finishes. I'm charging $875. Small bump, almost irrelevant to the average renter, but $25 more than justifies high-end finishes. So it's like those were things I learned back then. If something's much better quality, you can force the appreciation. Right now in Long Island, there's major players here like Fairfield, Heatherwood, these guys that I can't compete with right this second. So what I do is when I buy complexes near theirs, I put in the same, if not greater finishes, and I'm charging less. Right, even $100, $200 less. It draws people in, so I stay at full occupancy regularly.
Wow, that's cool. What great lessons to learn early on. And I like the idea of no one knows how old you are behind a computer screen. So it's like, you know what? If I can't sell it to you in person, I'll sell it to you over the internet. Like, and then you're going to pay probably, like you said, it just doesn't matter at that point. They're not going to judge you based on your age. So that's really, really cool. Do you want to jump then into the conversation, talking about your first deal, how you got that done, and then kind of how you transition to bigger assets?
Yes, that first deal, it was found through a friend of mine at Hofstra at the time. He found the deal. He wanted to be a broker. I went out and looked for money and looked for money. I couldn't find money anywhere. And then I knew this guy. He saw what I was posting on social media. He found credibility through that and my history. He spoke to my parents. He knew my parents, and he ended up saying, "You know what? I'll give this kid a chance." And he ended up lending me money, and that was it. And it was history from there.
What did you do with that property?
I rented it out. I still have it till this day. I didn't know about the BRRRR strategy back then, so I didn't refinance it right away. I just sat on it, and I just sat on it, and I just paid down the loan as fast as possible through the income of the property and side hustles. That's why when people give me excuses today, like, oh, but I'm busy between this and this, I'm like, so you don't want to do what I do, because when I was in your shoes, when I started, I found every mode of income possible. I drop ship furniture. I knocked on people's doors. I managed their social media accounts. I was babysitting dogs, like I was dog sitting. I did everything under the sun to make a couple bucks to pay off this high interest loan. So I could take that and I could go into the next deal and do something else,
Right. Oh, that's cool. That's very cool. When did you decide to start doing bigger assets?
Well, I always wanted to do bigger deals. I just didn't know how. You know, looking back today, people ask me, what would you do differently? And what I would do differently is I'd start bigger, you know. So that's probably the only thing I do differently if I went back. Start much bigger.
Start much bigger. No, that's great. That's great advice. I think people often struggle overcoming the mental hurdle of like, okay, we're going bigger, but how are we going to find the money to do it? How did you do that?
Well, you find it, right? It starts with a deal. So as long as the deal is good, the money's out there. The market dictates whether you're going to do well or not with your deal, right? You can handle everything you can handle to the best of your ability. Leasing, renovations, all that good stuff, right? Financing. But the market at the end of the day dictates how well your product's going to do if you do everything else correctly. If you do everything else incorrectly, there's no question you're going to fail, right? That's not even a discussion. But if you do it all right, the market's going to tell you your feedback.
How did you go out and raise capital, maybe for the first deal? Tell us about that, and maybe how that's changed and how you guys handle capital raising now.
The first deal, I already did 5 projects with hard money and seller financing. And now I'm sitting with this higher net worth guy, awesome guy, shout out Mike, investor till this day and good friend of mine. And I'm sitting with him and I'm like, showing him, he's like, show me what you're doing now, kid. And I'm like, here, I bought 5 houses. This is what I'm doing. This is how it looks. And he's like, you're paying 14% interest, 12 and 2. What are you, out of your mind? And I'm like, what do I know? You know, like, this is a good deal to me. I thought this was a good deal. And he's like, how about I give you $1 million and we do a couple properties with no interest, just cash, and do your thing. You know, if you could carry a 14% interest rate, you can definitely yield me much more, right? If you're still making money on 14% interest, how much can you make if we're partners?
Right.
And that's what we did. And that's how I raised my first round.
Wow, $1 million check on your first raise. That's really, really an exceptional story. I know that's probably not the case for many people to have that type of investor, but I mean, what a cool thing for him to see the potential in you. And
Yeah.
say, hey man, you know, here's an open checkbook. Let's go do this.
Well, one, he's also how do I put this in nice terms so I don't offend too many people, but I'm no, he's no, you know. And we're talking and we're like, listen, he's like, how much do you want to start? You know, what do you want? And I'm like, well, I'm already doing these houses. I've got a couple million in real estate through hard money. Like, I want to start with $1 million, you know, and let's start with $1 million. And he's like, $1 million I can do. That's a good start. Let's do it, you know. And
what'd you go buy?
Easy as that. A couple houses, all cash, renovated, refinanced in a year, got him back all his money, rolled it into another deal.
That's awesome. Tell me, I want to talk about 2 things, how you guys are finding or where you're finding opportunity right now. I know you've graduated to a few different asset classes. It sounds like multifamily, some warehousing and things like that. But how are you finding opportunity in today's environment? I mean, 2022 has changed a lot of things for a lot of investors. What's your strategy now?
I mean, I am an aggressive deal junkie. I love doing deals, you know, and I love doing great deals. So the strategy's transition to no floating rate debt, nothing with short-term projections anymore. We're working strictly on 5-year projections, no liquidity events in the near term. And we're still doing just fantastic deals. I mean, we're retrading everybody that we're under contract with, and it's working, of course, because everybody understands the economic climate. If they don't, we back out. Right. There was one deal that somebody didn't, we backed out. It was all right. We parted ways. So fantastic deals, no floating rate debt, and no short-term projections.
I like that. That sounds really good. And you say short-term projections, 5 years is 5 years tends to come around quick. Are you underwriting an exit in 5 years? Are you underwriting holding it in perpetuity? Is that how does your exit strategy change?
It's looking like a 5-year liquidity event, whether it's a refi or a hold, standard, right? But we're going on a 7-year, 7+1+1, it's called. So a 7-year term, +1 if we have to extend, +1 if we have to extend.
Got it. That's exceptional. What about team? That's something I want to hear about. You know, it sounds like you figured out pretty fast. You're a fast learner. You certainly learn a lot faster than I do. But you know, you figured out pretty fast how to grow your assets, how to, partner and find money. But then talk about team building. What was that process like for you? Who were some of the first people you brought on? And then of course, having a 25-person team for a $70 million in assets under management, it's a lot of people. So, I know you said you guys are poised. You're kind of positioning your team before you buy the assets. So give us kind of that full breakdown. When I say team, what does that mean to you?
Well, I'm all about the team. Everybody says that, everybody knows that, but what I think that they don't really grasp is that you have to be quick to let people go. It takes me a while to bring somebody on. I'm very picky with my people. I'm very picky. Oh, it's almost crazy. It's almost insulting how picky I am with people that come around. And I'm so fast to cut them off. And so, what's the word I'm looking for? Unapologetic.
Yeah.
So I've swapped maybe 10 people in my office like that on the drop of a dime. You say something out of place, you act out of place. I feel a little bit of negativity out. Don't want it. I need positive people around me. I need good energy. We're building $1 billion company at the moment, multi-billion down the line. I need that kind of energy in the door. And intelligence.
How do you go about vetting? You say you're super picky. What's your process for acquiring talent?
Well, I look for track record. I look for connections. I look for intelligence, right? I run DISC tests on people, and then I run basically Excel modeling tests on people. Now I have a really good infrastructure of people with me that are also absolutely brilliant. So they gauge who we bring through the door as well. And that's been instrumental in picking who we're taking on next because there's an environment and energy that we need to sustain.
What about positioning your team for growth? I know you said you're shooting to have $1 billion under assets under management by the time you're 30. Bringing on that team and positioning your team ahead of the growth curve. How do you hire for that?
Sam, that's probably the best question you've asked me.
Well, I'm sorry if all the rest of them sucked, but
No, they weren't bad. But that is a great question. And let me tell you why. Because as the operator, as the person that did it, it's hard for you to put in other people's eyes, right? For them to see your vision. It's hard for you to explain to them your vision and have them execute to go big.
right.
Because a lot of people are scared of going big.
Sure.
So how do you enable them to go big?
Yeah.
Right. And I can't answer that question. I'm still trying to figure that out. That's been one of my biggest struggles. My biggest pain points right now is we're at 70 million. We're about to put another 25 million under contract as we speak. How do we double that in the next quarter?
Right.
And that's scary to other people because they're thinking, it took you 5 years to get to 70. I have, 0. So how are we going to get to 100 in, 1/15 of the time frame?
Right. Right. Yeah, but momentum, I think it's momentum that carries, momentum begets more momentum. It's like a snowball. It's like, it takes a while to get the initial ball going. And then after that, it seems to go a lot faster. And it seems to happen suddenly, like, oh my gosh, this thing got really big, really fast. But that's part of the process, I think. But my question more was strategic in the sense that, hey, we're going to go big. How do you know who to bring on the team ahead of that going big?
I mean, it's pretty easy, right? You want people that have been part of those environments before. So I've been poaching people. It's I don't know a better way to answer that question. You kind of got to be rough around the edges. You got to take people from places that have done it so they can do it with you.
Well, and there's nothing wrong with that. It's we're launching a business right now, and not that I poached them, but they were employees at another company, and it's a non-real estate related business. But I saw them and I said, "You guys are awesome at what you do. You're just employees here. Why don't you go start your own thing? I'll help you launch it." And they're like, "Hey, cool, let's go do it." Nobody got poached, but at the same time, they're employees, and it's like, there's not a lifelong contract to work at a particular location. It's just, hey, you're talented and the grass is greener over here. Come with us and join our team and let's go do something. So
how many people do you have on your team?
That's a great question. I don't even know because we're involved in so many different asset classes and different projects. I mean, every team is a little bit different. So, we can get into that later though. Those are details that aren't relevant at the moment. Let's see. What else do I want to ask you here? If I missed anything here, Allon, that I should have asked you, things that you say, hey, you know, this is something really relevant that we're working on right now, that's cool, that's fun, that I'd really love your listeners to hear.
I think you did great. I think you're awesome. I'm just doing deals, baby. I'm just rocking.
Rocking and rolling. I love it. Allon, thank you for taking the time to come on the show today. I certainly appreciate it. Learned so much from you. I love the hustle. I mean, learning the hustle at an early age, that's music or speaks to my heart. It's something that I, like you, grew up with. And I think learning the hustle at an early age is just an invaluable skill set that, that you'll carry the rest of your life. I love the momentum you developed. I mean, you're 26. Obviously, you know you've done great things. And you've made it a lot further than a lot of other people have. And I just love the vision that you're carrying forward with your company. So well done. Certainly appreciate coming on today, sharing your insights with us. If our listeners want to get in touch with you or learn more about you, what is the best way to do that?
Social media at Allon Avigi. I'm there. I always answer.
Fantastic. And for those of you who are listening, if you're curious, that's ALLON AVGI. So at Allon Avigi. Allon, thank you again for coming on today. Certainly appreciate it.